I made a video a while back questioning when Final Fantasy XI was at its peak. If Square Enix made an official classic server, what would they include? Would it be just Rise of the Zillar? Would it be Chains of Prometheia, Ottergon, Wings of the Goddess, Abyssia? Beyond? What year in its history? 2004, 5, 6, 7, 10? When was the formula almost at its absolute best before things started to change too much or decline? I say decline with a little hesitancy because it's not that Final Fantasy XI in retail format is bad, it's just very different. There was a point at which the format of how 11 as content is delivered kind of deviated in a different direction. If Square Enix put out a classic version of the game like Blizzard did with World of Warcraft, what would be that point? Well, like we discussed in that video, that answer is not easy. It's kind of different for everybody. When people think that the game was at its most perfect, depends on a lot of factors that honestly have nothing to do with the game. Who are you playing with? What's going on in your life? How much time are you able to devote to the game? Random stuff, like what are your friendships and relationships like with people that you're playing with? Things that have no actual residence in the game, but can totally shape your entire experience. Personally, my favorite expansion was Chains of Prometheia. My favorite period of the game is right after that as Ottergon came out. Ottergon in that period of time sort of changed a lot of things about 11 that I actually don't love, but it was still the period of the game that I enjoyed the most. Others might say Wings of the Goddess, which introduced a lot of stuff that enabled you to play in solos, duos, trios more effectively, while still introducing a lot of the kind of content that people from the past, 5 years of 11 loved and enjoyed. For the past year or two, I don't know, I've been playing on the private server Eden on and off, which is a Treasures of Ottergon era experience. However, a lot more recently, a new private server called WingsXI, Wings of the Goddess era experience, has been gaining a lot of traction, getting a lot of people interested, because apparently there's a huge part of the community that was missing that part of the game. Still the 75 era, but at the Wings of the Goddess, timeline. I give all this background to lead up to the question of a lot of people have been saying, Hunter, are you going to be jumping on Wings 11? And I've pushed back very hard, and I kind of want to explain why. So am I going to play on Wings 11? I don't know, maybe.
Truth is, he would. In fact, he'd go on to download the game that very night.
But let's get into it. So a little background of me personally, I fought the private server experience, the idea of a classic form of Final Fantasy XI for years. People would ask about it on stream and I'd say, I'm just not interested. That's not really for me. I've devoted far too much time to Final Fantasy XI retail. I don't really have any interest in redoing a lot of this stuff. The time investment seems too great. And a lot of that is still true, but I've certainly changed my opinion. Almost as an experiment, because purely I was so drawn to the nostalgic feel of that classic experience. I did jump on Nasomi and Eden. I can't remember if it was 2 years ago or 1 year ago. This whole past year has been crazy. It was probably 2. And surprise, I found that I loved it. It didn't bother me at all that I was redoing a lot of the stuff that I'd already done, with the exception of rare exclusive items. Oh my god, it's like the Sobro, the Ochamusha Kote. Every time I'd go to level like Monk or Sam and I'd think about the fact that I didn't have that stuff waiting for me in the wings, it did hurt a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I found that I loved it. We played for months, and then I think a few people started to fall off, and a retail campaign started up again, so I shifted back to retail, and there I was for a little while. But like I was having a blast. I will say it did start to weigh on me a little bit, thinking about like all the stuff that I would have to level up again. I think I was leveling Red Mage, and I got to the mid 50s, and all of a sudden I was kind of like, I don't think I'm having fun with Red Mage. So I started thinking about everything I'd have to do to get another job up to the mid 50s just to catch up to where I was, and it all kind of hit me like a brick, and I sort of took a step back, and I was like, I think this is too much. I'm spending too much time redoing stuff that I've done. And that's when I started to hear about Wings 11. So immediately I was like, no, I am not doing this all again. I've basically been doing this for 2 years on and off. I've invested so much time that I never thought I would invest, period, a second time. Like after the original retail investment, I thought I was done. The fact that I did it for a second time on Eden was a shock even to me. A third, almost unheard of. I mean, when I say 2 years, I've been playing 2 years constantly. It's been like 30 to 50 days of in-game time, which is not insignificant. I think it's some of the most time I've spent on any game ever, if you count Final Fantasy XI Eden as its own thing. 30 to 50 days is a lot of time. Like, holy crap. But yeah, people kept saying, hey, are you going to check it out? Wings of the Goddess is finally available in private server form, which is not something I personally have been asking for because, to be honest, like I said, Wings of the Goddess wasn't exactly the fondest period of time that I can remember playing Final Fantasy XI. A lot of my friends had quit or were kind of starting to quit, taper off.
It's expansion, Treasures of Ottergon, where, I mean, general parties had shifted to that kind of more merit burn style. Skill chains and magic bursts were kind of a thing of the past. Nobody really wanted to take the time to do that anymore. And I was hoping with the release of Wings of the Goddess that Square Enix was going to take steps to bring that back to the forefront and make players have a reason to do that again. And nothing. Yeah, let me just say that's not Square Enix's fault. That's the evolution of player meta. To change players from doing something that's efficient and effective, you'd have to fundamentally have changed something significant about Final Fantasy XI. And if I've learned anything in my decades of gaming, to Square Enix's credit, there's no real way to force players to do anything. If they think they've found a better way to do it, they're gonna do it. And of course, Wings of the Goddess introduced a lot of amazing stuff as well. Dancer and Scholar are both fantastic jobs, beloved by many, that totally altered how people could approach the game, both of those main jobs and using them as support jobs. The story is beloved by many. I'm still working on finishing it myself, but I can see why people like it so much. It is really cool. The past zones were a really interesting take and very interesting to explore. There was a ton of fantastic content and campaign. I hated campaign. I hated campaign so much, but some people liked it. It was out there. It was a thing. But yeah, it was sort of the last period of the true 75 era experience of the game. And I mean, Shantota's Ascension, Kupo, Coup d'etat, those three little mini DLC expansion things came out as well. But Wings of the Goddess was sort of the end. And many would argue that without Dancer and Scholar in the game, the 75 era experience just doesn't feel complete. But man, when I think of leveling that first job from 0 to 10 without a sub job, going through the first Dunes party up till 18, getting the sub job quest done, leveling my sub job, Kazam keys, the first few missions, quests, outpost warps, all the outpost warps that I'd earned, it weighs on me. It's so much. And keep in mind, this is after I've already done it once on a different private server. Doing it again, thinking about all that progress, just hurts my brain. Now, that's not to say that there isn't a draw. There's something about the classic experience that will always pull me in. And Wings of the Goddess, Wings 11, is doing something different and solving a problem that I think all the other private servers have had, which is the problem of multi-boxing. This is an issue that didn't really come up when retail, was retail back in the mid-2000s, because to be honest, running 2 instances of the game wasn't super easy. You either had to have multiple consoles, either a PS2 or eventually the Xbox 360 hanging around to play this thing, or multiple computers, because I don't think there were many people that had a computer strong enough to run Final Fantasy XI twice on a single box. That was a pretty intensive game back in the day. Now we can run it on a toaster, but at the time it was pretty intense. On top of that, there was the financial investment. You had to have 2 accounts, 2 subscriptions that you were paying for to Square Enix. It just wasn't as common. I'm sure there were people out there that did it, but on private servers, it's as easy as clicking a button. So why not create a second character as a white mage to run around with you and keep you healed? And it just kind of changes the dynamic of how people approach the world of Vana'diel when you always have a white mage at your side, and it made leveling white mages very difficult because power leveling was essentially always an option. This of course led to some of the changes on Eden, which I understand I don't think was the wrong decision to nerf power leveling by removing the experience that players would gain if the power leveler took hate at all during the fight. But it upset a lot of people because it's fundamentally very different from how Final Fantasy XI has worked in the past. These are some of the challenges that private servers face that like retail wouldn't really face because of the financial investment. But it is a problem, and Wings 11 said, no more, we're not going to allow you to multi-box. I think this is a good approach. I've always loved 11 for its focus.
Also, campaign just sucks. I hated campaign. Love the books. Love those little books that help you level and like give you a little support stuff refresh, regen, that kind of stuff when you're solo. I love all that, but the books were amazing. Hated campaign. Now, this isn't to say I'm not going to check it out. In fact, this weekend, as you're watching this, I'm probably already playing. I've got a ton of free time this weekend specifically. Time has been hard to come by lately, but this weekend I'm a little bit open. So I figured I might check it out, see if all the hype lives up. Obviously, the first 10 levels probably won't. We all know what to expect. Anyways, guys, I want to hear your thoughts, whether you're playing WingsXI or not, or another private server. What are your thoughts on private servers in general for Final Fantasy XI, the classic experience of Final Fantasy XI in 2021? Do you enjoy it? Do you think it's too much? Is there not really enough time to invest in it the way that you used to? Is that bad? If you think I should jump on and play WingsXI, let me know. If you think I should stick on Eden, let me know. If you think I should stick on retail, let me know. If you think it's time for me to set down Final Fantasy XI and move on to something else, please comment that, because that would be a first. Nobody's ever said that to me before. Come join us on stream every Tuesday night, Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We play a lot of 11, but also other stuff. But we'd love to see you there to talk about this stuff as well. Otherwise, I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, I think we probably will need the body, right? And the avatar out, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So if you could do that.
Alright. What are you asking? I want you to very clearly define your request.
Sorry, I'm asking you to die. Die a horrible death over and over again.